As the old woman bleeds out on the floor, skinless, she reminds herself that you must suffer for beauty. Most people have read some version of Grimm's fairy tales during their lives, or have at least seen a Disney adaptation of their most popular stories. Saying that these stories are a little different from the ones we knew from childhood is one hell of an understatement. These stories are all about blood, revenge, and then most of the time everyone dies. So on today's episode, we're going to go over 5 strange and disturbing folk and fairy tales. Number 1. The title of this Italian tale is The Flayed Old Woman, and it certainly delivers on that name. 2 old and ugly sisters live together near a king's castle. One day the king goes for a walk and hears one of the women singing. Her voice is so beautiful that the king assumes she is young and fair and falls for her instantly. The women, realizing this is a chance for glory, attempted to fool the king into thinking they're young by sucking on their wrinkled fingers and only showing him those. And then they pull back all of their saggy skin and approach him in complete darkness. Still, the king discovers their ruse and throws one of the women from a tower. She gets caught in the tree branches below rather than dying, and she hangs there by her saggy skin, weeping. Some forest fairies hear her and decide to help her out. They give her fine clothes, servants, anything a rich lady could ask for, and they make her young. The king sees her and decides that even if she was an ugly old liar before, she's pretty and rich now, so he marries her. So happily ever after, right? Not quite. The other old sister is extremely jealous and decides she wants to be young and beautiful too. She demands her now young sister tell her how she was transformed. The sister becomes so irritated with her questions that she says she flayed herself. The old sister believes that lie and goes to the barber to be flayed. He's dubious, but eventually consents and flays her alive. As the old woman bleeds out on the floor, skinless, she reminds herself that she must suffer for beauty. Number 2. A fairy tale from Russia, The Dead Mother, is equal parts sweet and horrifying. A husband and wife live happily together awaiting the birth of their baby. When the baby is born, the mother is so happy that, of course, she dies. And everyone weeps and mourns, so the man hires an old woman to look after the baby. The child screams and cries all day and refuses to eat. But then whenever nightfall comes, the baby is silent. Eventually, the people got pretty curious about the baby's strange habits, so the husband, old woman, and some of the townsfolk get together and enter the baby's room. There, they find the baby's dead mother, dressed in her bloodied burial clothes, breastfeeding the baby. The dead woman looks at them, then sadly puts the baby back to bed and leaves. When the group checks on the baby, they discover that, of course, it died. Never try to separate a mother and her child. Number 3. In the Brothers Grimm tale, The 3 Snake Leaves, a son of a poor man leaves to find his fortune and takes a job fighting in a war under the king. He rises to prestige during the conflict, and the king takes notice. He thinks his daughter may be right for the young war hero, but she's a little strange in one aspect. She won't marry a person unless they're willing to be sealed up in her tomb with her dead body, so they could never marry another. Surprisingly, the war hero agrees to this unconventional arrangement, and the two are married. Then his bride becomes sick and dies. As promised, the young man has himself walled up in the tomb alongside his beloved, with only some bread, wine, candles, and a rotting corpse to keep him company. And then a snake slithers into the tomb. The man kills the snake, hacking it to pieces, but then another snake comes out with magical leaves to heal its mate. Seeing the leaves' magic at work, the man takes the leaves and uses them on his dead wife. Lo and behold, she comes back to life. Still, this is not a happy ending. The young wife suddenly finds that she does not love her husband anymore. In fact, she's fallen in love with a skipper on a voyaging ship. She and the skipper throw her husband into the ocean, killing him. Luckily, he still has those leaves and comes back to life with the help of a servant. Heartbroken and angry, he hunts down his murderous wife and tells the old king what has happened. Disgusted by his treacherous daughter, the king places her and her lover in a ship full of holes to sink and drown. Number 4. In the Grimm's tale Hans-My-Hedgehog, a peasant couple has a son who is born with the top half of a hedgehog. They name him, of course, Hans-My-Hedgehog, and then ignore him as he stays behind the stove for years and refuses to die, although they'd really prefer it if he did. One day, in his infinite kindness, Hans's father asks him if he wants a gift. He asks for bagpipes and a rooster to ride, as one does, and leaves his parents' house. One day, the king rides by and hears Hans playing his beautiful bagpipe music. The king asks if he knows the way back to the palace. Hans tells the lost king that he'll take him there, under the condition that he gets the first thing he sees. Upon their arrival, the king's beautiful daughter runs out to greet her father. Now, the king does not want to give his daughter to a hedgehog boy, and he orders the guards to attack Hans. But they can't kill him, and he demands to be paid what he's owed. At last, the king gives in, and the princess rides away with Hans. However, Hans stops, rips off her clothes, and sticks her with his spines until she is a bloody mess. He tells her that it was for her deceit, and that she must return to her father to live out her days in ugliness. The same thing happens again at another kingdom, but this time the girl agrees to be with Hans. The hedgehog boy tears off his hedgehog skin and has it burned, and is transformed into a handsome prince. He even returns to his parents' house with his new bride to rub it in their faces. Number 5. There are 2 versions of this German story, and both of them are terrifying. Both start with a pair of children who decide to pretend that one is a butcher and one is a pig. As you might guess, the story is called How Some Children Played at Slaughtering. The boy playing the butcher takes the game too seriously and tackles the pig boy, slitting his throat, and of course killing him. This is where the story diverges. In one version, the mother of the 2 children playing sees the killing while bathing her youngest child. She rushes down in a fit of rage and kills the older boy herself. And then she goes upstairs to discover that her youngest child has drowned in the tub. And so the distraught mother hangs herself, and then when the husband comes home to find everybody dead, he dies from grief. The other version is less morbid, but arguably more distressing. A councilman witnesses the killing and brings the boy in for trial. However, everyone agrees that it was just supposed to be a game, so they can't tell if the boy is evil or not. They decide to test him by setting out some money and a shiny apple. If he chooses the money, he's bad, and if he chooses the apple, he's good. The boy chooses the apple and isn't punished for committing murder. Children's stories have no doubt changed a lot over the years, but to think that all of the beloved stories from our youth started here just blows my mind. Anyways, thanks again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Now, go watch this video on 5 more creepy urban legends from the United States. You won't regret it. Or maybe you will later. Thanks everybody. Good night.
Brush your teeth and eat your vitamins.